The Five Nights at Freddy's series is home to many characters, some popular, some meaningless, and some that are obscure, but no character takes the title of most obscure FNaF character more than that of Dark Springtrap, a counterpart of fan favorite William Afton, and arguably his strangest one to date. Yes, that includes the baby. 2016, what a year. Sonic celebrated his 25th anniversary, Kirby Planet Robobot released and was the peak of the franchise, and FNaF was taking a different and unique direction. Sister Location had been revealed, and hyped up with various teasers, a trailer, and even was a core part of FNaF World Update 2's ending. This led to the community speculating so much about how the game would turn out. Would it be free roam? Would it be its own continuity, or a part of the same story as the previous game? And would the animatronics be performers entertaining adults? No. But you get the idea. This also led to a lot of speculation about whether or not we'd see characters from the previous games return beyond Freddy and Foxy, especially since some people thought the game would take place in the future due to the more advanced technology and greater sci-fi theme of the previous game. This eventually led countless people to speculate if Springtrap would finally return at long last. I remember seeing so many theories of how he'd be incorporated into the game's premise or how he seemed likely to join the cast. When the name of the characters were first found, people speculated Ennard was the in-universe name for Springtrap since Springtrap was never said in-game. Then we got a teaser of a mask with spaghetti wires killing that idea. Then there were a lot of people who could have sworn they saw his reflection on Circus Baby's nose in that one teaser. Yeah, that wasn't the case. Don't worry though. I'm pretty sure Puppet was confirmed to be Funtime Foxy's reflection in the trailer, right? Not to mention, Scott himself even responded on Steam stating he'd like to bring back Springtrap. However, it need to make sense in the story, so all he could say is perhaps someday. All of this left me really excited for the game's release and the possibility of seeing my favorite character at the time finally getting another chance in the spotlight. I remember I'd make art of a Springtrap design for what he could look like after the fire, and have him appear next to various members of the game's cast. I might have gotten a few details wrong, but hey, at least I'm not one of those people who genuinely thought he was going to be the player.
Then the day of the game's release came, and it was made pretty clear by the game's opening and its plot that this was long before William's demise and that Springtrap didn't make sense to appear. However, everything changed in December of that year when the Sister Location Custom Night update was released. After completing Golden Freddy mode, the player unlocks a brand new cutscene. Unlike the previous cutscenes you got for completing challenges, you are not taken to a minigame style cutscene. Instead, you get to listen to Michael recap the events of the game as the screen shows the burnt remains of Fazbear's Fright. At the very end, as Michael says he's going to find his father, the player then sees Springtrap appear from the remains. This scene actually marks the first and only appearance of Dark Springtrap in the entirety of the Five Nights at Freddy's series. He only appears for 2 seconds in the entire game, quite possibly having the least amount of screen time of any character to date. Now at first, one may assume he doesn't even exist. How could he? This is just the original Springtrap. Understandably so, even Scott has gone on record stating he's arguably the most obscure character in the entire franchise, with doubts from fans he even exists. However, he does actually have some visible differences, the most noticeable of them being the lack of his pelvis and the wire coming out of his right ear. There is one area of his design that has confused people and caused them to speculate, that being his teeth. Some people believe that Dark Springtrap has buck teeth and that his other teeth are missing. Personally, I do not actually agree with this. I think this is the result of the angle he's at, as well as lighting at play. His tooth is simply blocking the other one next to its side, and the other tooth is simply covered in lighting, which causes the illusion that he has buck teeth. Some might wonder where the name Dark Springtrap even came from, as it's never stated in-game. The name actually originates from the merchandise of him. Despite his very minor appearance in the game, he was actually included in quite a few waves of Sister Location merch. As for how we know for sure the character in Sister Location is the same character as the merch, this was actually confirmed by a Funko employee. They stated that the idea came from Scott Coffin and that he was a character from Sister Location. Before we discuss the quality of the merch, I feel it's noteworthy to bring out the original description released for the Funko Pop. Originally, it stated that Dark Springtrap was a form Springtrap could only become when he's extremely angry. This was replaced, however, after Scott was informed about it. Also, don't worry, none of this merch makes him look like a rabbit like the Funko plush keychain did. First off, released exclusively at Target in October of 2017 is the Funko Pop. One thing that's important to point out regarding the merch is the design of him. Unlike its appearance and sister location, the pelvis and earwire are actually left intact, with the main design difference now being his glowing white eyes and darker color scheme. This is consistent throughout almost all of his merch. In comparison to the regular Funko Pop, the Dark Springtrap Pop comes off as a lot more glossy. Then there was the Mystery Mini, which was released as part of the Sister Location and Twisted Ones wave in March of 2018. A recurring theme with his merch is that it's surprisingly better than its Springtrap counterparts. Most of Springtrap's merchandise has been portrayed as a very bright yellow with golden colored eyes, neither actually being a trait of his original design. The darker green palette and white colored eyes actually make him more closely resemble his original appearance as a result. Next in line, released in November of 2017, came the sister location wave of the Pint Size Zero figures, alongside the core cast and jumpscare variants. This wave also featured Dark Springtrap and Lolbit. Despite appearing in the base game, Yendo is absent from this lineup. I take this as another reminder for why I should not care about Golden Freddy's long-lost forgotten relative. As a result of this detail not being in the original figure, this is one of the two figures to not include the earwire, therefore making this more faithful to the original source material. Lastly, released in May of 2018 comes the core sister location Hero World set, featuring Circus Baby, Ballora, Funtime Freddy, Ennard, and Dark Springtrap? Surprisingly, this set does not include Funtime Foxy despite them being one of the core main animatronics of the game. Instead, we're given a new figure of Dark Springtrap, which is probably the most interesting one yet. Unlike the others, this one is given a slightly new mold with his arm no longer sticking out, and his mouth being opened. Like the pint-sized hero, he also doesn't have the earwire. However, there is one major difference compared to the rest. He is actually shown to have red-colored pupils here unlike the usual white. After the Hero World figure, that was the end of Dark Springtrap. There was no more merchandise release, nor did the character ever return in any later installment. In Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, his role would be taken over by that of a new counterpart named Afton, otherwise known as Scraptrap, and none of the following games would make any reference to him. However, some people were under the impression that the Springtrap that appears in the Ennard Vent Repair Hard Mode minigame from Help Wanted is actually that of Dark Springtrap. This has never been confirmed by Steel Wool though, and considering the fact that the model contains a pelvis and is not referred to by any special name in the files, it's likely this is not meant to be him. This isn't the only time a misconception involving the character happened. Shortly after the release of Ultimate Custom Night, a user by the name of Mangle the Mango 87 posted a screenshot of a supposed Dark Springtrap jump scare on Amino, and for a few days people thought it was a real Easter egg. Personally, I don't really understand how anyone thought this was real, considering the mistakes made with it, such as some of the UI missing, his jump scare overlapping the UI, and the fact the design does not line up with any of his official designs. It's a well-made edit, but doesn't really capture the feel of the character. The last time he would ever be acknowledged officially was in a comment by Scott discussing a nice little story about the time he visited the late Skylar Ginn. Scott had brought him multiple Funko Pop figures in a bag and began to quiz him to see how fast he could name the characters. The last character Scott pulled out was Dark Springtrap. He thought he could stump Skylar as a result of Dark Springtrap often being forgotten. However, Skylar actually got it right without missing a beat. While he hasn't appeared in a main game since SL, various fan works have included him. In particular, he appears in the game Ultra Custom Night, where he appears on the right side of the screen once per night, and to get rid of him, you have to turn on the heater. It's pretty neat. It also probably has the most accurate fan model I've seen of him. Maybe someday Dark Springtrap will return officially. I'd argue he would work perfectly as a skin in FNaF AR, using a mixture of his sister location and Funko design. But as of now, I think the fact he's only appeared in this one cutscene, yet managed to somehow have his own legacy, is easily the most fascinating thing about him. All I ask though is, if that's Dark Springtrap, what would a light Springtrap be like? Wow, that's kind of neat.
Wait, did you just waste 9 minutes of our lives talking about Dark Springtrap?
Yeah.